Hey, so our off-road adventure today begins off-road here in the garage, going underneath the truck and taking a look at what we found. Well, one nice thing about having a 4x4 truck is you don't always need a jack to get underneath it. So what's going on here today? We had this on the trail last weekend and we were running a lot of high RPM and putting it in strange angles, and my wife kept asking me what was that smell, what's that smell? And I didn't know what she was talking about because I'm just used to this truck smelling bad. And what she was smelling is this oil dripping, and what I saw when I got back was this oil right here coming down on the floor, and you can see it pushing through the inspection hole on the dust shield. And if you look over here, you can see my starter is shiny and covered in oil. So that led me to go upstairs and see what's going on. So we're going to take a look up there. I've removed the air filter, the connector that goes to the snorkel top on here, tube going across to the air intake. We've taken the basically the PCV valve gadget out of here, and I've gotten a couple bolts off the intake, but they're just not easy to get to, and working my way through slowly. I'm not that familiar with this engine from, this first one I've ever owned, so I haven't disassembled a lot of these. And I'm just trying to go slow and keep an eye on what I'm doing. So I labeled these fuel lines starting here, and I marked it 1, and then I went around clockwise through 8. These are 5/8. Have to figure the best spot here to try to bump it off. There it is. That wasn't that tight. Loosen that guy up. Nope, not that tight at all. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but they're all tied together with these clamps, so you can't take off just one at a time unless you take all the clamps apart. And remember, I'm trying to see if I can take things off in the least number of individual items. Just try to make assembly items if at all possible. Okay, that one's loose. Here's where we're going to get into a problem. something just happened. Okay, that one's loose. I can't see why it won't come out. Let's see. There we go. All right. So this one is here and down there. Let's see if we can get that to come out. GoPro, stop recording. So my only other option here, I probably should have just taken a pump out at this point, is to use a crow's foot. I've got a box end and an open end. You probably can't even see what I'm working on there, but I do have the crow's foot. I have it down in here. I don't know how I'm ever going to put these back on without cross-threading something. There we go. So I've got to get this one at least loose to get the passenger side bank off. And see if we can see in here. There it is, it's turning. I can see it. You guys probably can't see it. But give you an idea how dang tight this all is. That is some super tight stuff. Okay, now I can finger loosen it. Oh, there we go. Alright, so this fuel rail assembly is now free. I'm gonna have to go on the other side to get to it. And here we go. There we go. This is one incredibly valve cover removed. An incredibly dirty truck. It's off. So I'll worry about cleaning this up later. Obviously there's a risk of getting crud in here, but there's not much I can do. Oh, my cap fell off my injector. There we go. So they're kind of covered up. No, the cap fell off the one up there too. Okay, well, gonna repeat over there. Let me let you guys enjoy some more of the fun I'm having. So the oil dipstick has a bracket here, and it's held on each end, which has been a 7mm screw on all the others. There, and I guess it is here too. I've been switching between metric to standard a little bit, mostly metric. But this bugger is, that wasn't a good noise. This bugger is a nightmare to get to. Just letting you know, I'm not having a lot of fun. You know, you'd think when they designed this, they would have been forward thinking and realized I was going to be here all these years later and not enjoying myself fixing a valve cover gasket. Anyway, more bolts and screws to take off, but on the driver's side you have the oil dipstick. You have the same brackets that are on the passenger side that hold the fuel injector rail lines down, and you have on top of those small 7mm screws, sheet metal screws that hold a clamp that holds the fuel injector lines down. And you've got the studs, a combination of studs and bolts that go around the perimeter of it. Anyway, I'm gonna get back to that, see if I can get it straightened out, but not having any fun. Okay, what's the score? Humvee 377, me 0. So over here, I pulled the rest of the fuel injector lines out, kind of snaked them out of here. I'll never get them back in the same way. Got the brackets off that hold them. Getting ready to pry the valve cover now. There it goes. Well, they definitely had it glued down. It's moving now. They glued it down pretty well. It's surprising that it was leaking at that rate. Okay. Ugh. Yep. We go around the other side. Okay. Well, here it comes. Junk falling in my trunk and all. There is a valve cover. Let me explain a little something to everybody out there that cares to listen. Look right here. This back corner of the head. So hiding right there is a head bolt. And this is the gasket surface, whether it's a forma gasket or a gasket of where it all comes together. The problem that you have with this is as the engine's running and the RPMs are going, oil's going to be pumping up here, and then it falls back down. Nothing pumps it down. Gravity takes it back down to the oil pan to start the process over again. With these low rails here, what happens is the oil puddles and sits against this lip, and it's a matter of time. It is going to leak. It's just a fact. Nothing you can do about it. I think it's cool that this one has the rebuild tag on it. It's pretty neat. But, you know, this surface along here is all distorted. And if I have any hope of it sealing, I'm going to need to very carefully hammer and dolly and clean this up. You know, this one, they're just dropping dirt everywhere. But same deal, you know, this is the problem spot back here, these corners. So that oil just sits on it. So I got my parts. Looks like I'm going to get a pair of rocker covers, valve covers, left hand and right hand. We're looking at the CDR hose, the longer one that goes to that valve. I was calling it the positive crankcase ventilation, but anyway, that one I have is pretty hard and crusty. The little short one that goes from the intake to the valve here, and then I don't know that I need that air horn gasket so much, but probably is a good idea to go ahead and replace it as well, because that's what seals the do not step on pipe to the intake. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these things ordered, and we'll just hurry up and wait. So I've been very busy with a can of paint and cleaners and scrubbers and stuff for the last little bit while I've been waiting on my new parts to come in. So if you want to take a look here, that's the original valve cover that had the JB weld repair on the corner that I discovered after, you know, taking everything out and cleaning it. This is a brand new OE cover from Mac Motors, and this is a new CDR valve hose that goes up to the oil filler neck, and this one comes right off the intake. And this is a new gasket for the top of the intake. Take you in here and show you where we are. This is the intake manifold. She's all painted up, clean, ready to go. CDR valve cleaned up. All my nuts and bolts, I would have really preferred to have, you know, just purchased a complete hardware replacement kit or what have you. These things were rusty, grimy, awful. I soaked them in parts cleaner, wire wheeled, clean, checked all the threads, and then put a coat of paint on them. I know they're going to get scraped up when they're being installed, but they just won't rust away right away. Probably made a mistake, but I cleaned up and painted the air intake tube here, glossy. That probably should have been flat. These are the brackets that go on the side of the valve covers and help hold the fuel lines on. And I removed the maintenance sticker here from Fort Campbell. I'm going to glue this onto the new valve cover, but wanted to go ahead and have that removed, cleaned up, ready to go. And in here, I did a Vice Grip Garage Craigslist rebuild. Bring you in here. Let me just turn a flashlight on. Probably going to be the way to go. But I cleaned and cleaned and cleaned the best I could on that in the truck. And went ahead and put a nice coat of paint on it. So it at least looks better, even if it doesn't run better. But for all the time and effort that I've put into this, that started out as just a valve cover leak, I might as well make it look the part. By the way, here's a quickie thing. You know, working on this truck is really difficult because there's nowhere to put your tools and stuff. And I grabbed some scrap wood and an old lid here to, you know, just a tote. That gives me something recessed that I can spill oil and grease on, and my tools don't want to just roll off. It's just sitting here on the radiator support, and now I've got a place to put my crap while I'm working. So it's all cleaned up. What I'm going to do is, hey, take a look in there. See how shiny that is? It's all cleaned up and painted. What I'm going to do next, I'm going to take a lot of heat for this, but I am going to go ahead and put a cork gasket. We'll put the Felpro 6.2 diesel gasket on the valve cover, glue it on, and get it installed. I've got my new intake gasket. If the engine was out on the stand and I could get to it clean and easy, I might try to just goop it up with silicone and slap it on. That's one of the two ways you're allowed to do it with a gasket or with pure silicone. The problem with the pure silicone is that as it squirts out, it can push out into the engine. and you have the reality that that can drop in and begin to clog up the oil pickup tube, and we want to avoid that if at all possible. And I don't have a lot of room to slide it in wet and goopy and drop it without smearing it everywhere. So I'm gonna debate whether or not just to put an extra fresh coat of paint on top of this. So I don't know if that's just a primer or what that is. And then glue the valve cover gaskets in, wait till that's completely dry, and then I'll start the reassembly. Looks like my process is gonna be valve cover, fuel lines, intake, and then all kinds of little brackets and stuff. And then I can go about the process of purging the fuel lines and stuff and going from there. So the video is already too long. We'll see if we can't make it longer and more boring. So here we go. After days and days of waiting for parts and stuff, got my valve covers. They're new, they're clean. Gaskets glued onto the valve cover side, and I have cleaned the intake manifold ports, covered them back up. Tape wouldn't stick to them before, they were too darn greasy. That's why I had that cardboard up here. Anyway, I've been dreading this. Just thinking it through, because it's time to make myself into a trapeze artist and start climbing in and out, in and out. You go on this side, then you go on that side. You go on this side, then you go on that side. Okay, that one's in place for what it's worth. Looks nice. My other one, sitting over here. Here is my other one ready to go. It is all made up to look like the original, just without the dents and scratches and rust. So I'm gonna go ahead and slip this one in. Just don't know if it's gonna go in from the front or the back. And you know, spent a lot of hours cleaning the rail of the head so that this thing will seal. Let's see if we can drop it in. You know, I think I'm gonna have to go in from the back. It's okay, just another burpee exercise. Call these Humvee burpees. Up and down and up and down. Okay. Let's see if we can get this in. Now, I'll admit, there's still some things here, like all this, I probably should have removed. But on a truck this old, with a wire harness this old, everything this old, every time you move and disconnect something, you run the risk of breaking it, damaging it. Especially the electrical connectors. They're brittle. Okay. That's that, sort of. A lot of slop on there. A lot of ways they can fit. Okay, so the next part is just getting the bolts on. And it has a combination of studs. It's a combination of stud brackets and bolts. Remember, I cleaned all these up, get them ready to go. I know for sure that the bottom corner has 4 of these, 2 on each side. And then the rest of my valve cover bolts, some of these didn't have anything on them. They were just studs, maybe for other options. But what I'm going to do here is get all the all the valve cover based bolts. It's all these down here, and get ready to put these on along with these brackets right here. All right, so here goes the fun. This is one of my first studs here that has to go way down in here. All right, that one's started. These valve cover bolts were on so tight. It's absolutely unbelievable how tight that they were. My guess would be that whoever the soldier was, that the technician that put this thing back together once upon a time, probably used air impact and just gave it everything it had. Okay, so here's a bracket right here. Dang it. Here's a bracket that I didn't clean up. I believe this one would go off a stud right there. Yep. So I need to clean this guy up. He's filthy. I'll do that real quick. This is definitely a corner stud right here. Holds that fuel tube. Holds that fuel tube in place. Now, I don't know if I'm threading it in or if... No, I'm not. I'm just... Maybe. All right. Okay, so I'm going to clean that guy up, and then, you know, basically this is the process from here, is having no light to work to save my butt. This thing ought to have like an LED glued underneath here. There's no light to work. But I'm going to clean that bracket up and just little by little put those in. I'm not going to bore you with step-by-step of screwing the valve cover back down, but I'll come back to you when I'm getting ready to run the fuel lines. GoPro, stop recording. Okay, my fellow Humvee community, this is the part that's been troubling me all along. I know that I want to keep these fuel lines loose so I can pump some fuel through before we crank it up to kind of purge the air. I have tried to keep the tops of these injectors clean. Cleanliness is next to godliness, and in this case it's next to being able to get your truck to run. Very difficult to do because there's dust and crap just constantly falling down. I put some caps over them. It was hard to keep the caps on them. So this is the driver's side left two injectors. I took a little bit of time to clean. These were very rusty. Cleaned them up, sprayed a little paint on them. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to finger tight these and then try to get down in the valley with the rest of it. Put them in. I didn't number them according to the exact firing order. I numbered them the way that I took them off so I could make sure I route them back through. But this next little bit is going to be really frustrating to try to get all of these in place and weaved in, because this has to go in before the intake, and the intake is going to be a whole other trick, getting them pulled back through and put the brackets back on them. Okay, so generally you're reversing the procedure, right? You're doing the opposite you did to disassemble it. These, some people call, I guess, the spider or whatever, but these fuel rails, these fuel lines are really difficult to access. I would imagine that an alternative way to do this would have been to pull the fuel pump with the rails on it after taking them loose at the injectors, and then maybe lift it all up as an assembly. I guess that would be fine. The only way that I found that you can really access these things, and it is a painful process little by little, is getting your claw wrench in here. And if you can, I'll just give you an example. I'd prefer a a tubing wrench claw head. I actually have one of those, and the problem is that it is just so tight in here. These are already all tightened. I'm just for giggles and grins trying to show you. But even at that, you know, this is pretty well lined. There we go. So, you know, you can slip it on and you turn it a little bit, and then you got to, you know, slip it back on and turn it just a little bit. So this is really difficult. Now, according to the technical manual, I should have taken this fuel line out, but I'm just being difficult probably for myself, and I left it in as well as this one. So these guys are now tight here. I've left it finger tight out at the injector. My intention is to push this out of the garage and rotate the starter and allow the fuel to spurt and spray everywhere out here, again, to purge some air out of the lines and to maybe wash some of the crud that I've got right here at the injector head. I hope I don't, but I'm sure I do. Otherwise, I'm going to have some plugged up injectors. But anyway, this guy's tight. So the next operation is to drop the intake manifold down. Tape is protecting these now. Lord knows I've dropped mud, crud, paint residue, who knows what down in these things in the last little bit. It's okay. You're loud. Man, that boy does not want to go under there. Everything's catching on something. Goodness gracious, what a pain in the butt. Okay, so that's cleared. I'm hung up on something back here. Okay, so this gasket, I'm going to try to put it in the right direction the first time. I'm going to line up with the bolts on the intake. I'm going to slide it under these dang fuel lines. Probably should have put this on before the fuel lines, but then the ports would be open, or I'd have to tape over the gasket, or, you know. Anyway, here we go. Up. There's a little hole way up there. Hole right here. It's down. So, going to attempt to bring it in from the front. Getting stuff. Getting all sorts of stuff. All right. Let's go. Let's go. If you can see up here, I'm into the throttle cable. I'm into everything. All right, that kind of turned the corner in front. Something's happening. I got junk everywhere trying to get in the way. All right, so this end looks a little bit better. Got my fuel lines in between. Okay, let's go deal with the backside where you guys are right now. You probably already see the problem before I do. Yep. You can't see it because the dang light's in the way. So let's get this. This side's ready to come down. Everything's hung up over here as I expected it to be. So there's a, come on baby. So stuff going on here. You just can't get the camera in at the same time. Show it all. I'm gonna, ooh, wait. I bet you that was supposed to go. Was that supposed to go? Anyone out there remember? Does that go on top of the intake or through this hole? That's a good question. Well, perhaps. Yep. Okay, so this fuel line probably needs to come around, and that means maybe an impossibility at this point. Let's see. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. All right. Okay. Now the fuel line is under. What a mess, guys. All right. And there is that fuel rail bracket. Okay. Golly. Intake is sitting there. Let's go ahead and tape this hole up so I don't fill it full of crap. So I'm just going to kind of take this one thing at a time. Pretty sure that the very first intake bolt down here went in all by its lonesome as a regular bolt. If I remember too, this thing was a pain. Come on, baby. Go in your home. There we go. Yeah. The old finger tight. Okay. So this guy, if I remember, probably should go back and watch my video, right? So this guy, I think, clips on right there. This guy, major wire harness bracket, right? Where the heck does it go? I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember. But this guy, pretty sure, we're going to put him right there. And bring in and show you. They've got these rubber isolators. But I can't put that on until I put the stud down. You see? I got to start the stud, and then that's going to somehow go up on my bolt. This is why you should be very cautious following a YouTuber. In the video just preceding this, I was trying to figure out how these straps go back down. And common sense told me that they should go on top of the stud. It just makes sense. But there's no way to get the stud down and tight and then get these underneath here and put them back on. So if I've put it back together backwards, I'm incredibly sorry, but there was no way to make it go together the way before, and now, you know, just everything lines up. The next thing I'm moving on to is something called the CDR. As I mentioned earlier, I did purchase a new hose for it. This is the, let's get some dust out of there. This is essentially the, kind of like the crankcase ventilation system. This guy is tricky because there's a hole right here that has to line up with your worm screw on the hose clamp in order to get the valve in. So the valve, I don't have it in here yet. This is the bracket and everything supporting it. But the next part of this is to try to get this thing worked in. It's going to sit on top of them. It's going to sit on top of the valve cover studs down here. Shed some light on that. Yeah, in theory. Maybe we go to the valve cover studs first. All right, now we're going to try to... Golly, I tell you what, this thing is just such a hassle. Such a hassle. Such a hassle. So we're going to... I'm going to fight with this for a little while, I guess, to try to get it... try to get you where you can see my nightmare. But... you can tell this is not going well for me at the moment. So I tried to put over the studs first at the top. That didn't work. So I'm going to try to get this to lift up. You know, if I'd just eaten my Wheaties today. Can you still buy Wheaties? I don't know. Okay, so we're going to try it this way. It's got to be a magic combination. Wait. I think that's it. Okay, so now the big trick, when I put the valve in, so I got to line that up to go right on there. And, you know, more stuff to fuss with. But I think I'm at a point I can put the valve on, because I'm kind of done messing with stuff in the immediate area. Dadgum, this is all tight. Oh my gosh, what a headache. I'm beginning to think that the Humvee is outsmarting me yet again. I probably should have put that on with the hose, tightened it, and then tried to snake the whole thing onto the fitting down here. But the problem is they give you just enough room for the hose clamp to go in. There's no fooling around. Anyway, I'm going to fight with this, and maybe next time you see me it'll be on. Okay, so take 27. Humvee is now at 497 points. I think I'm up to 2 points. This thing was a pain. Ultimately what I did is I put the hose, I took the bracket back off, put the hose on the bracket, tightened it through the hole with a clamp, and then I, did this, and this, and this, and this, and I got it on here. But it's really weird because the new hose almost doesn't seem long enough. It's bizarre, but it's new. And let me just give you a warning. If you're messing with one of these, make sure that you don't just throw like a heater hose on that. The hoses that are used for oil transfer, oil vapor transfer, they're different than a radiator hose or heater hose. Heater hose is just going to swell right up and fail almost immediately. So I went ahead and opted to get the new one. I think it was like 16 bucks. So here's the other side of that hose. I went ahead and replaced it as well. So everything there is hooked up. I plugged in all my connections, hooked up my grounds. I'm going to drop the air cleaner in here. I did get a new gasket for this, so we're going to replace that gasket and then drop this on. Pretty sure after I check all my connections, the next thing to do is to push it outside with all the lines loose at the injectors and spin it over and let it spit and sputter diesel all over my driveway, and push the air out, and then I can tighten those, and then I think I'm pulling it back in, and I think then I can crank it up and let it go through its process and go from there. Okay, so the plan is to do the fuel line purge. I got the fire extinguisher and I pulled it out of the garage with my other truck, and I think the idea is to, all the injector lines I've got finger tight down there, so they should just spray. See what happens. So I'm not seeing anything spraying. Maybe I got them too tight. I don't know. They're all just finger tight. Yeah, they're just finger tight. Well, nothing is coming out. No fuel coming out. At least not yet. I got this one here just loose. See if there's any fuel here. I don't know if it's proper to wait for the glow plug to go out or not. Probably doesn't matter. I see fuel. See fuel. I see fuel. Okay, I see fuel. Let's go around here. Smell it. Smell something. Hard to see in here yet. That one's wet. That one's wet. maybe that's the magic. I don't know. Crank it a little bit more and then I'll tighten them down. They're definitely spitting. Oh yeah, they're all spitting. Okay, I'll tighten them down and try it again. So I got in a hurry to try to crank it, and I forgot to turn on the camera. But obviously, they're fired up. And just kind of looking at everything. Got oil pressure. We got voltage. I think it sounds all right. Yeah, let's say I tighten that bolt right there, but yeah, she's running. The smoke coming off, I expect that because there's paint on things and oil spilled on things. See some smoke coming off this exhaust manifold over here. That's alright. So far so good. I'll let it warm up a bit, then I'll bring it back in the shop.